The Deputy Chair of the Tory party says he won't apologise after saying asylum seekers who refuse to board the Bibby Stockholm should F off back to France instead. Number 10 have backed their man at party headquarters. Well, the Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick joins me now. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in. Do you agree with what Lee Anderson says? Should illegal migrants F off back to France?
Well, look, we all choose our own language, but what Lee was expressing was the deep frustration of the British public, not just at the numbers of people crossing the Channel, but the apparent refusal of some people to accept perfectly decent accommodation on this barge. You've got to remember that this is a form of accommodation that's being used in Belgium, in the Netherlands, has been used by British oil and gas workers. And so, if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for the migrants as well. We'll always house people in decent, legally compliant accommodation, but it's not right that people can pick and choose and expect to be put up in four-star hotels, and that's the change that we're bringing about.
You say that he is expressing the views of the British public, but there are lots of people in the British public who say that the language is divisive and stoking hate. The organisation Hope Not Hope said words have consequences. Hope Not Hate has recorded a huge increase in far-right and anti-migrant activity. When will the government recognise that language matters? And that is their concern, isn't it? It's sending a message about language and that this could stoke far-right activity.
I don't think that's right. We believe that the UK is a generous country. It's a big-hearted country that welcomes people here who are in genuine need of our support. That's why, since 2015, we've issued humanitarian visas for more than 500,000 people from Ukraine, Hong Kong, Syria, Afghanistan, and elsewhere in the world. But it is absolutely right that we also balance that with fairness to the British taxpayer. And it's not correct that £6 million a day is being spent on hotels. That's why we're bringing in these basic, not luxurious, but decent forms of accommodation, like the disused military bases, like the Barge. And I hope that individuals will take advantage of them and that campaigning charities and others will let us get on with the job.
You say Lee Anderson speaking for the British people. He also said last night that the government's small boat policy is a failure.
Well, many people are frustrated by the number of people crossing. This is an immensely complex challenge that doesn't just face this country, but
has the government failed in that challenge?
I don't agree with that. It is a challenging situation, but you can see from the work that we've done, particularly since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister, I became Immigration Minister 9 months ago, the deals we struck with France that have led to more interceptions on the beaches, the work we've done with Albania that's seen a 90% reduction in the number of Albanians crossing the Channel, the increase in raids on illegal working like care homes and car washes and nail bars that are employing illegal migrants, up 50% this year alone. And today we're announcing another significant step forward, which is a partnership with Turkey, one of our key allies, a country through which many of the engines and the boats, as well as illegal migrants, pass through en route into Europe and to the United Kingdom, whereby we'll share intelligence and people and technology and be a strategic partner in tackling this issue together. And so on each and every front, we are working intensively. And I genuinely believe that the UK has the most comprehensive plan of any European country to tackle this issue. And whilst numbers are rising very significantly, 400% increase in the number of people crossing the central Mediterranean in the first quarter of this year into Italy, we have actually seen the numbers fall. Today, it's just under 20% reduction on last year. Now, we're not complacent. That could change.
Well, the weather's been bad,
that could change. Well, you can't say that, for the whole year. I'm not complacent about that. That could change. But it does show that we are gripping this issue and we're beginning to make progress.
If you are making such progress, why is the backlog so huge? Why does it take 1 to 3 years to process somebody here in the UK and it takes 6 months in Germany? That's the nub of the problem, isn't it?
It isn't the nub of the problem, but it is an important thing that we have to get right. I say that because there are those, such as the Labour Party, and you heard from Yvette Cooper earlier, saying that just if you process claims quickly, that will fix it. I think that's a naive view. That's what they did when they were last in office, and that just encourages more people to come. But it is right that we make the Home Office as efficient as possible. And the good news is that we're succeeding. We've increased the number of decision makers to 1,800, and we're on course by the 1st of September to increase that to 2,500. That will be almost doubling the size of the organisation. Productivity is rising, and the last 8 weeks of data show record levels of decision making. So I'm very confident that we will make good on the promise that we made in December to clear the legacy backlog by the end of the year, and to put the whole system on a more sustainable footing. But as I say, that is important, but it's not sufficient. You have to abut that good work with a proper strategy to stop people coming in the first place. That's where the Labour Party falls short, because they just don't have that plan, and I'm not sure they even want to stop the boats in that regard. That's why the Rwanda policy matters. That's why making the UK a less attractive destination matters, such as by putting people in rudimentary and decent accommodation, but not luxurious forms of accommodation, and why deals further upstream with important countries like Turkey put the UK in a stronger position than other countries to tackle this issue.
The Rwanda policy matters, but remind us how many people have been sent back to Rwanda so far?
Well, we're waiting for the outcome of the Supreme Court. You know, you can't doubt the government's commitment to this. We've signed that partnership. It's a very important one. Many other countries around the world are looking to that as potentially a significant step forwards. We're going to make our arguments in the Supreme Court in October, and I'm confident that we'll succeed. And once we have, we'll be able to get those flights off.
Quick question about the two data breaches that we've seen revealed in the last 24 hours, one of the Electoral Commission, one of the police in Northern Ireland. How concerned are you, especially about the one in Northern Ireland?
Well, we're very concerned about that, and the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland is receiving regular updates from the police service of Northern Ireland to understand how this happened, how we can prevent it ever happening again, and most importantly, to provide as much reassurance as is possible in the circumstances to the brave men and women who work for the police service of Northern Ireland, that we will do everything we can to protect their personal security and that of their families in the hours and the days to come. But we completely understand that this is a worrying time for them, and the police service in Northern Ireland has not just apologised, which was the right thing to do last night, but said they'll work intensively to put in place the measures that are necessary to protect people.
Can I also ask you about Nadine Dorries this morning? The Labour Party, Yvette Cooper, has renewed her calls for a by-election to be held there. She hasn't spoken in the Commons since July 2022, last voted April 2023. She's leaving her constituents in limbo. Isn't it time for her to go?
Yes. I think being a Member of Parliament is a special privilege. You sign up for a term in office. If you decide you want to leave Parliament for whatever reason, you need to get on and do that. I don't think Nadine Dorries' constituents are being properly represented. I hope she'll reach that conclusion soon.
What about Chris Bryant's plan to get the government to force her out if she doesn't attend Parliament for 6 months for the sake of her constituents? Would you support that?
I'm not familiar with the details of his proposal. I know he's relying on quite an arcane piece of legislation. Obviously, the government will consider that, but it's probably a matter for the House of Commons rather than for the government. And so if he brings forward serious proposals, then as individual members of Parliament, we'll have to consider that. But the basic principle...
Is she an embarrassment to the Conservative Party now?
Well, I'm not going to get into a particular criticism of Nadine.
Well, she's not doing her job, is she?
But my view as a Member of Parliament is it's a real privilege to serve in Parliament. You sign up to a term in office. It's only in the most sparing circumstances when you should leave before you've fulfilled that commitment. But if you do, then you should get on so that people in your constituency have the representation they deserve.
Robert Jenrick, thanks so much for coming in and talking to us.